a knowledge of anchors and paths using the shape tool in Illustrator enables us to edit shapes, to create new shapes, and to not just get stuck with the basic set. So I've drawn some shapes here using the tool, some squares, rectangles, rounded rectangles, and polygons, and I'm just going to show you some of the features that are in here for editing them. So most of the time when I'm working with shapes, I just use the selection tool to click and move and reposition them. Now if I'm actually using another tool at the time, like in this instance, I'm using the shape tool and I actually want to quickly switch back to that selection tool up here, I can hold down Control and then move objects. Once I release it, I'm back on that other tool. So that's a useful thing to know. As I'm working too, I often zoom in and out. So I'm using Control plus to zoom in, Control minus to zoom out. And as you can see, it doesn't always frame the area that I want to work on. So if I hold down the space bar, I can click and drag to reposition my view on the page. Control 0 works much like the Control minus and plus in that it reframes our view to fit the whole artboard. So Control plus to zoom in, Control minus to zoom out, and Control 0 to see the whole artboard. Alright, so we know what the selection tool does. There's another arrow underneath it called the direct selection tool, and it enables you to edit specific parts of an object. Those parts are either the path or the anchor. So we'll just grab a couple of shapes to work with. I'm duplicating it, so I'm holding down Alt. So let's get a square and a circle, and we'll zoom in. As you can see, when an object's selected, its path is visible and the anchor's making up that object as well as the center point. So direct selection, which is A on your keyboard if you want to use the keyboard shortcut, is something that enables us to click and drag those anchors. And as we do that on a curved object, you'll notice that handles appear. The handles enable us to further control the curves to the left and right of that point. And one of the things that you might want to do at some point is actually edit that so that you are not just changing the handle on both sides, as when I grab this one, but you're actually just moving one. So I'm just going to hold down Alt while I have the direct selection tool visible, and it enables me to edit one side, and I'll do that on the other side here, and I have a teardrop shape. Let's look at the square. I can move the whole thing if I select it. Notice when I click in the middle, it moves the whole thing. If I deselect by clicking off it and then click on one of the side paths, it enables me to move those two anchors. So watch again as I select this part, this and this anchor will be highlighted, and I'll be able to drag those. It didn't highlight, but it's still just dragging those. And if I want to select multiple anchors, I can hold down Shift, even on different objects, and only those anchors will actually move or reposition themselves. Another way I can select multiple anchors is to click and drag over them. So if I want to grab those 4 anchors and they're selected, I can move them all together. So my square and my circle look like very different shapes now. How about we look at something else that we can do with our anchors. I'm just going to duplicate this, holding down Alt, and duplicate it again. One I might make yellow with the eyedropper tool, which is I on my keyboard. Click on this one and make that one pink. So the default position for a star is what you can see here. If I want to rotate it, there's a rotate tool here, which is R on your keyboard. It places a little mark in the center point, and as you can see, it pivots on that point. So this star's in a different position to the others. I'll control click on this one and make it go in a different position. However, if you want to rotate an object from a different point than that center point, then you can actually click just once on the object and then drag and it will pivot from there. If I want to pivot from this point here, I click once, and as I swing it around, it will pivot from there. So the rotate tool is quite useful. And I might want to edit my star. So of course I can go to direct selection, click and drag, try and get it right, click right on the anchor and edit features of this shape. Another thing I can do is actually delete or add anchors. So that's visible here under the pen tool. I'm just going to, no, that's not the pen tool, this is the pen tool here. And as you can see, when I right click and click on that tab, the different aspects are visible. This one here adds anchors, so I'm going to add a couple of anchors here, put some extra points off this side of the star so you can see what it does. These ones will stay fixed, and this one, oops, I moved two at once, to deselect, these one will stay fixed and this one moves out, and here. And the opposite is true. If I hit minus on my keyboard, minus or plus to bring up these, then I can actually go in and remove anchors and come up with some interesting shapes. If you do not hit right on that anchor, then it will come up with this message, and as you can see, it tells me when it's going to be visible. So I'll remove that one. I've got this interesting arrow shape. I can use the rotate tool, or if I'm in selection mode, a bounding box appears. I can scale it by clicking on that corner, hold down shift to maintain proportion, or if I just move the cursor just off the corner, you can see that a curved arrow appears, which enables me to rotate it. Another neat thing about the rotate tool is if I hold down shift and rotate, it rotates at 45-degree increments, which means that you can get things aligned just right. So that should be enough to give you an idea how to edit using the direct selection tool, adding and removing anchors, and editing handles.